Hi, my name is Justin Fonseca, and today we're going to begin our very first lesson on music theory. So, music has 7 main notes. You have, if you look at Indian music, Indian classical music, it contains sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha and ni. These make 7 notes. It ends on sa again, which is the 8th note. If we look at Western music, you have do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti. 7 notes and it ends again on do. Now, for our Western music, especially the music theory, we won't be using do, re, mi, fa, nor can we use sa, re, ga, ma, since that is for the Indian classical. So, we have alphabets for this. It starts on the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Since there are 7, we stop at G, there is no H, I, J, and it comes back to A. So these are the alphabets which we will be using to write our music theory. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now, as we move forward to learn about the treble clef, we'll be using this in our lines and spaces, and you learn that ahead. So, first of all, music is written on a sheet containing 5 lines. This is called the manuscript paper. A manuscript paper is available at any music store, and even if you don't get it at a music store, you will be able to download this online. If you need it, we'll add a link to this in the comment. So, once you download your manuscript paper, you can print them off the printer and you can start writing music in them. Now, if you have no access to a manuscript paper and can't find one in the market, then I suggest you could take a plain sheet of paper and draw 5 lines on them and make that your manuscript paper. So let's begin. Music is written on a sheet of 5 lines. So let's just suppose these are my 5 lines, although my drawing is not that great. These 5 lines together are called a stave. Okay, so a stave is a set of 5 lines on which we write our music. Now, these 5 lines are numbered. We start counting them from bottom to top. So this is first, second, third, fourth, and the 5th line. It's always counted from bottom to top, never from top to bottom. Now between these 5 lines, if you see, we have these gaps or these spaces. They too are going to be used to write our notes. So we number them from bottom again, first space, second, third, and fourth space. So in total over here, we have 5 lines and 4 spaces. Now, coming to the treble clef. The treble clef is also called the G clef. Why is it called the treble clef? Because it represents the treble side of the notes or the higher part of the notes, and that's why it's, as we have in speakers, we have the bass section, we have the treble section, and we equalize the speakers accordingly. In the same way, the treble side of our treble clef contains notes starting from the middle C going higher. So first we'll learn how to draw the treble clef. Okay, so if you go to C, this is your basic treble clef. but we need to learn how to draw it. So for that, we make a dot on the second line. We'll do it slowly so everyone can follow. If you have your manuscript paper ready with you, you can do it along with me. You make a dot on the second line. You take a curve up to the third line. As you reach the third line, get the curve down to the first line. Once you're done with this, you take this above all the 5 lines, making the head of a swan. And after this, we come down in a straight line through the dot and make a U-turn. So this is a part of our treble clef. Now you can practice doing this again and again. Make a dot on the second line, go up to the third line, come down to the first line, go up, take a turn like the head of a swan, come down in a straight line and take a U-turn. This is called the treble clef. Okay, so let's understand what is a clef. A clef is a medium. You can call it like a sign that tells you what notes lie on those lines ahead. Okay, so if you have a treble clef, you have a different set of notes that are contained in the treble clef. If you have another clef called the bass clef, they have different set of notes. If you have an alto clef, you have a tenor clef, they have different sets of notes. Whatever clef is drawn over here, depending on that, you can name the notes that are there in your 5 lines. If there's a different clef, the notes over here will change. So it's very important to know the clef first. There is another clef we haven't spoken about yet, that's called the percussion clef. The percussion clef is just 2 lines. Percussion clef is mainly for any percussion instrument. So mainly drums, you have bongos, congos, cymbals, you have the timpani. Any orchestral percussion instrument will be denoted by the percussion clefs. Again, the notes that lie on the 5 lines of this clef will be different. So now, since we have learned to draw the treble clef, let's learn to draw a basic note so we can use it for our practice. So the note we are learning is called the semi-breve. It looks like an oval and it's drawn like this. We will learn the counts and the value later on. For now, we just use this note in the 5 lines. So if your semi-breve is supposed to be on a line, the line should go through the center of the semi-breve. Only then it's considered that it's lying on the line. And if the semi-breve is supposed to be in one of the spaces, then the semi-breve should be right in the center, touching both the lines on the other side. So this is how we will be drawing a note in the 5 lines or in the spaces. Now coming back to our treble clef, we have 2 sentences that we need to learn in order to know which note comes on which line. So the first sentence, this is for the lines. The sentence is every good bird does fly. Okay, so this is the first sentence we have to learn. I'll be explaining to you how and where it works. And for the spaces, we have face, which is not actually a sentence because all the 4 letters make a word. We don't need a sentence to learn this. So let's come to the lines. We have every good bird does fly. So since every is the first word, E falls on the first line, G on the second line, B on the third line, D on the fourth, F on the fifth. Every good bird does fly. In the same way, for the spaces, F is in the first space, A is in the second, C is in the third, E is in the fourth. This is how the notes will fall on the lines and the spaces. So we have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and it doesn't end there. It goes on ahead, up as well as down. So as we can see, our 5 lines and 4 spaces are already occupied with these notes. Now there's no more space to write the next notes. So what do we do? If we have notes coming below E, then we have to add a small line to put those notes in them. This line is called a ledger line. Ledger lines are small lines which are added in order to write notes in them. So we have a ledger line here that makes this part the space above the ledger line. So if we have E over here, and we can see it's going in order: E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. So if we go backwards, before E comes D. So we will have D in the space above the ledger line. Now as we can see, even the notes go line, space, line, space, line, space. So over here we had line, but below this was space. So now the next note should fall again on the line. So we add our ledger line. Above the ledger line is D. So below the ledger line will be our C again. This C is the middle C, and it is the beginning of the treble clef. The treble clef always begins on the middle C. In the same way, as we go above, the last note we have on the 5th line is F. So now the next note should fall on a space, and if we go alphabetically, this will be our G. After G, the next note we have should be again on a line, and obviously it will be A. And this can continue higher. We will not be going since we reach the end of the board, but this can go higher than this. So as you can see, we began our session by learning about the stave. A stave contains the 5 lines and the 4 spaces on which we write our notes. We learned the treble clef. We learned how to draw the treble clef. Again, I'll show you. We begin on the 2nd line with a dot, make a curve up to the 3rd line, to continue the curve down to the 1st line, then go up above all 5 lines and make it like the head of a swan, and you turn, come down in a straight line through the dot, make a U-turn, and that is our treble clef. Now after that, we learned about the lines and spaces and their sentences. So for the lines, our sentences, every good bird does fly. For the spaces, our sentences, F-A-C-E, what makes the word face. We found our notes on the lines, E, G, B, D, F. In the spaces, F-A-C-E. We found that these lines and spaces go in order, so it's alphabetically E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. After the 5 lines and 4 spaces, if we wanted to write notes above or below them, we found out that we could use ledger lines. Ledger lines are small imaginary lines that we add. They are only this much. We cannot add a long ledger line. That's wrong. We have to add only how much is required, and we can put our notes on them. After that, we found our middle C. Again, middle C is the beginning note or the first note of the treble clef, and above that is the treble clef. Below the middle C is the bass clef, which we'll be learning in the next session. Then we found out that the notes even can go above, and there is no limit over here. We can still go higher as much as required for the instrument or the voice that is singing it. Now, since we have learnt about the treble clef, let's practice drawing some notes on it and drawing the correct notes on it. Okay, so since we have learnt how to draw a semi-breve in the middle of the video, we'll be drawing the semi-breve at the required places where we want to place our notes. Okay, so let's take some random notes. First of all, let's take a C, let's take F, let's take an A, and let's take a G. Okay, so now these 4 notes we are taking are going to be irrespective of their pitches. So we are not going to go higher or lower. We're going to draw them anywhere on the treble clef, wherever we can find them. Okay, the first note, C. So let's keep C within the 5 lines and 4 spaces. So using the sentence, let's check the lines. Every good bird does fly. We don't have a word with C, so C does not come on the 5 lines. We check spaces, F, A, C. We do have C over here, that is the 3rd space, so F, A, C. So we'll be drawing our C in the 3rd space. This is our C note. Okay, let's go to the F note. Now, for the F note, we have 2 options because F comes on every good bird does fly. So, the 5th line, or F, A, C, E, F, the 1st space. So, we could draw it on the 1st space or on the 5th line. But now, since we have already drawn the C on the space, let's take this note on the line. So, this would come this way and we'll name it as F. So, when we actually write or draw our notes, we won't be putting the alphabets inside. But right now, just for reference, I'm naming the notes so you know which note is where. The next note, A. Okay, so A, again we use the sentence, every good bird does fly. A does not come on a line, but F-A, face F-A, comes on the 2nd space. So, we draw it here. Now, the last note, G. We have the sentence, every good bird does fly. G comes on the 2nd line. But, since we have done all these 3 notes inside the 5 lines and 4 spaces, let's take this outside. So let's go, every good bird does fly, F. 5th line is F, we want the G outside. So the G would fall above the 5th line in a space. So what we need to do is just we draw the note above this line in a space. You have to know that the note has to touch the 5th line to be able to be recognized like it's above the 5th line. If your note by mistake cuts the line, this will be wrong. If you're drawing the A note and you draw it but it cuts the line a little, this is wrong. Same way, if your F is like this, which is not properly, the line is not going properly through the note, that too will be wrong. Okay, so when you draw your notes, you have to be careful, you have to be neat. Keep it neat from the beginning so that when you go ahead and write a lot of notes, it's simple and easy to draw them. So, this brings us to the end of our very first video, that is about the treble clef. If you have any questions or any doubts, you can ask it to us in the comments below. You can even feel free to message us on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you in the next video that's going to be about the bass clef. Bye-bye.